All right, hey guys, TG here. Welcome to the live session on Facebook and YouTube and Periscope. So we're going to be digging into the markets and seeing what's going on. We are getting to pull back today. I actually had a live session with my Moxie group for my trading group, and told them, hey, we're expecting a pullback. So we are getting that today, and I'm going to be walking through that. We're going to see if this is about all that we should get. So hopefully, because it's getting down to some of the support areas that I've been looking at and guiding. And so we're going to see if that works out. Now, as far as there was a newsletter that I wrote, and we come here, it's the NASDAQ completed the elf shoe. And when I look here, what I wanted you guys to do is I actually referenced a previous newsletter that I had written, and it was said, hey, what I'm looking for is basically the elf shoe pattern after the NASDAQ did its big move down, and I want to see this, and I kind of drew something, and I said, I'm going to check back later. So now is later, and that's why I wrote this just a few days ago. And this is the initial post. Let me kind of zoom out here a little bit for you. This was the initial image that I drew saying, back here, I forget what day this was, but we had price kind of come down, 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 and it finally bounced. And that is usually the heel. That is the first bounce, okay? And when the elf shoe is basically a double bottom, so we're looking for price to come back down. Well, the arch of the foot is typically up here in this area around the 21. And then I was looking for price to come back down and retest some low area. Now, when I did this, I'm looking at it and saying, hey, I don't know necessarily how long this is going to take. So, this is just the concept that I'm expecting price to come back down. And then once it retests the low area, then it can start to move back up. And you can see that this is what I drew and just as an idea. And then when time with the markets to do all this, as I said, it did take longer than I expected. This is how it did. And if you look at the two, let me kind of see if I can zoom out, pretty darn close, right there. You can see pretty darn close as far as what I drew, the concept of price coming down, bouncing, retesting lows, and then going up and doing that W pattern, the W double bottom, the elf shoe for what I talk about. And here we got one little fake out. So if I kind of zoom in here, we got one little fake out right in through here where price did come lower, did everything I wanted to do. It did move back up into there, and then we got one more rollover, which had me a little bit concerned. I wasn't expecting that to happen. Usually this is a kind of a quick 1-2, and then the market goes back up. And so you can see we had that fake out, and then I finally had to come back down and basically do the same thing again. And then we finally had price come up, but there's the elf shoe, the double bottom that I talk about. So if you guys want to see this, come check it out over at profitpilot.com. And then you can see everything that I talk about and all the articles I write, and you can reference it to this other article that I had written. It looks like March 11th, back when that was the one. So yeah, so let's kind of look at this. The IWM is the one that I am most aware of right now, because what I'm looking at here is we need to see the 50-250 maneuver hold. And this is what I had been guiding. I said, for everybody in my group, we're looking at price getting up over the hourly 50. And I said, hey, at some point, price is going to have to come back down and fill that gap. It's going to have to come back down and test that moving average. And that's what I'm looking for. I want and I need to see price hold that hourly 50. Now, maybe you can kind of go a little bit around there generally, but that is what I am looking for. And so far, it is happening the way I want it to. We just need it to actually hold. And so that's kind of where we're at. And if we look here on the daily chart, we should see price coming here on the daily 50 as well. That should be good support, and we're going to see that actually work out. So right in through here is kind of where we're looking at. The other thing to maybe add a little bit of confidence or confluence to the area is that the third ATR, the lower third ATR, is right there also at the hourly 50. And you guys know what I think about the third ATR. Price usually stays between the third ATRs, bouncing back and forth. You can see right here, it went on the upside of the third ATR, and now we're here at the lower side of the third ATR. So yeah, I need to be seeing price kind of hold this area. I'd like to see it also hold the 15-minute 200, and we need to see things start to turn around for us on that. As far as the SPY, and then we'll get into this and kind of look at some individual names too, to show you how this is all kind of working out that direction. The SPY, it's definitely up there. So it's awfully high. So there's this big gap between price and the 8 EMA, and there's a big gap between price and the 50, the hourly 50. So we're going to have to see how that thing is going to resolve itself to come back down to that kind of support. Either it's going to chop sideways or it's going to pull back or something like that. But we need to see price kind of get back down to the hourly 50 in the same manner that the IWM is doing it too. And then you got the NASDAQ. I think the NASDAQ kind of doing the same thing as the S&P. It's holding up. So the indexes are kind of moving in their own particular ways. The NASDAQ and the SPY, they're hanging up there. The IWM is pulling back in the same fashion that I've been wanting to see in order for price to test the hourly 50. And you can see the NASDAQ, same thing, big gap between price and the 8 EMA on the daily chart, and gap between price and the hourly 50. So we're going to have to see those come back down or go sideways to resolve those. One of the other ways, FFTY, covered this in my live trading session yesterday with the Moxie group. And you can see here, expecting the same thing. This is the FFTY. This is the IBD 50. It's doing the same thing as the IWM, crossing the 50, getting rejected 200, and we need to see price come back down to something around the hourly 50. And all of this is doing, just like what I showed in the newsletter, this is all tying together. This is what I'm showing, the elf shoe pattern that I was expecting in the NASDAQ, I'm expecting now in the FFTY. If you look at that, you can see here's your leg, here's your heel, here's the arch of your foot, and we are working on the ball of the foot someplace, something like that. So we want to see price come down a little bit, retest the low area, whatever that happens to be, and then we want to see price start to move back up like that as it holds the hourly 50 and then starts to move back up. And again, if you guys are looking for examples of how that works, here's the NASDAQ. And you can see in through here, here's your leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of your foot. We got this extended ball of the foot, but then we finally got that elf toe. So, yep, that's kind of what I'm looking for. We're just going to have to wait and see how that stuff all unfolds. As far as some of the other names that I'm looking around, I don't know if you guys actually watch me on Instagram, but I do a quick little blurb ahead of time on Instagram just to kind of let people know what I'm doing and that I'm coming onto this program. But actually, it's ARK. Let's look at the ARK ETFs. You guys notice how they're doing, all the ARK ETFs are doing the same thing. And what you'll notice is that we've got that major double bottom, the elf shoe, on the daily chart. Leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot. We're trying to work on that elf toe right there. It's in process, it's working. But look at the same thing. Just like FFTY, just like the IWM, I'm looking for ARK to kind of fill this gap and touch the hourly 50. I don't know how it's going to do it. I don't know how long it's going to take, but that's generally what I'm looking for. And all of the ARK ETFs are doing the same thing. I mean, you can go across the board from W to G to Q. I mean, they are all doing the same thing. And it makes it, it's kind of an interesting thought to think, hey, these ETFs are baskets of a variety of different stocks. They're supposed to be kind of different, but they're all moving the same. And I just find that interesting, perplexing a little bit. So here you go. You can see that for ARK Q, it's a little bit head of the pack as far as its pullback. So it is coming back down to the hourly 50, and I'd like to see that stick. The other thing that I see as progress for something like this with ARK Q is look at the distance between that 8 and 21 on the daily chart. It's very much together. So if price wanted to move up, it could, because the 8 is just about to cross over the 21. So that's going to be working out pretty well if that thing gets going. Let's see, G. Let's look at G, see what G is doing. There you go, G, right there. Look at that, coming right down into the hourly 50. So however much further it wants to keep pulling back, but that's the concept that I want to be seeing, is price pulling back into the hourly 50 and then holding and moving up from here. So as long as we can find names that are holding that and doing what we want them to do, then fantastic. Let's show you some of the bigger names. Now Tesla, maybe this is going to be looking the same as the ARK ETF, since ARK has, like 10% of their ETF in Tesla. So huge, it's going to basically look like Tesla. So what does Tesla look like? Well, you see how it's done the same thing? It has crossed over the hourly 50, but now we need to see price actually come back down here to the hourly 50. That's the kind of thing that I want to be seeing, is actually kind of touch that or kind of use that for support, something to that extent, because you can see before it did it and it didn't hold. So we want to see price come down and hold the hourly 50 this time, and it should, because leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, we're working on that elf toe. That's what I want to be seeing. And then Neo, just another one. Come on, there we go. We can show you NEO, and it's a little bit more aggressive to the downside. Look at that. It actually is right there at the hourly 50. So we're going to have to see in the next day, 2 or 3, that if this starts to hold, it starts to recover, and then we want to see price get back on top of these moving averages and use them for support instead of just testing them for support. So, and then another one, Redfin, is one that I thought was kind of ahead of the pack. And you can see, same thing. It's like a broken record out there as far as what these names are doing. And we're just looking at this. Yes, it crossed the hourly 50 there, and then it's testing the 50, and I guess it's testing the 50 again. The Moxie indicator staying above 0, so that should be good news. And then we want to be seeing the 15-minute 200 hold and start acting like support to get price up and over on something like that. Now, we'll kind of, so Cannabis, and then I'll get into some of the cryptos. Basically, Cannabis isn't doing anything. You know, this is why I keep talking about we need to see these moving averages hold, because if they don't, then they're free to go down because there's nothing holding them up. There's nothing that can guide them up because they're underneath the moving averages. And so you could see here that for something like Tilray, it kind of popped its head over the hourly 50, but it never actually was able to use it for support. And what we can then see here is it actually started to get guided down by the 15-minute 50. So that, you know, Cannabis in general still having issues, which is why I just have not gone into them yet. Let me kind of get that working. CGC. And you can see the same thing. Across the board, Cannabis is basically doing the same thing. They keep trying to roll over. I don't know where they're going to go. You know, we could say maybe is there a double bottom in its future? Like if we actually do this, it's a possibility. I'll draw a line. We'll see what happens when it gets there. But for right now, there's nothing to do with Cannabis. And it seems to be across the board. Even VFF, look at this, just not holding their moving averages. And we're just going to have to wait and see when these things want to start turning up again. And on the daily chart, there's a possibility. You know, I can't say anything yet, but it's a possibility. Leg, heel, arch of the foot, you know, maybe that's the ball of the foot that we see on this dip. And on the hourly chart, you know, maybe this is a level and maybe that's some positive divergence. But I can't call it yet. So that's what's important, is that we kind of see like, okay, maybe this is coming, maybe these formations are working out, but nothing happening yet. And that's we got to just wait until they get on top. All right. So if we look at some of the cryptos, GBTC for Bitcoin actually itself, it seems to me as though we're basically just kind of bopping along. We're trying to basically flag, get a little bit closer to the daily 50. You can see here, daily 50, daily 50, daily 50, and maybe right here it's trying to figure out what it wants to do again about the daily 50. And as far as the overall pattern, I'm at least okay with the fact that the 8 is over the 21, because that means the fast moving average is over the slow moving average. And so that's still technically bullish, and we do still have the daily 50 in an uptrend. So we're looking at that. And then in through here on the hourly chart, I was looking at this, there's your double bottom, there's your positive divergence, and so that started the next move. And if we look here on the hourly, this is the same thing I'm talking about with the IWM. See how price had this gap between price and the hourly 50? Well, so far it's coming back down, and it's not holding the 50, and this is GBTC, which is going to be the ETF of Bitcoin. So, you know, there's going to be some slippage, it's not totally perfect. But basically in through here, I need to start seeing this thing hold right in through here because number one, it's at the lower third ATR, which is a lower extension basically. It's kind of like the outer boundary to that side. And it's also at the hourly 200. So I'd like to see that thing hold. I want to see the Moxie indicator continue this divergence, but I got to see price start to turn around, and I got to see the Moxie indicator start to, you know, go green on this stuff. So if we look at, let's see, Mara was overextended right in through here. So, you know, talking about that third ATR, this thing was running the third ATR. At some point, that's going to be an issue. How about the daily chart? Look there, right there. It hit the third ATR, and price was very far and extended off of the daily 8 EMA. And the same thing I'm talking about for the S&P, for the NASDAQ, for the IWM, for the FFTY, for all these names. Look at them with this gap between price and the hourly 50. And where'd it go? Right back down to the hourly 50. So hopefully this is where we're going to start seeing Mara, you know, the Bitcoins, Bitcoin-related stocks, the miners for them. You know, that's also at the third ATR. So far, the Moxie indicator is above 0. You know, this is the pullback that I've been looking for. Now we need to see it hold. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, all right, we need you to hold. We need to see this actually start working out from here. And we're also looking at the 15-minute 200, which is in an uptrend. So Mara is clearly in an uptrend. It's pulling back so far. We're looking for it to pull back to support. We need to see it hold that support, and that's where I'm looking at it for here. Now let's go over to Riot. Riot's been moving around quite a bit on us. Let's see. So third ATR. Here is the thing. Earlier when I was looking at this, the 8 on the daily chart, the 8 was over 21. It's still technically there. And if we look, same thing as GBTC. Daily 50, daily 50, daily 50. So that's why I put my stop just below there. It's getting awfully close. Hopefully I don't want to get tagged out before this thing turns around. But that's what I'm looking for, is I want to see price, find some support at that daily 50. And I want to see price go to the third ATR, hopefully start to reverse. They're all going to start moving together at the same time, and that's what we're seeing. So I want to see these things start to get down to these areas and start catching some support. And if we look at CAN, just to keep building the case, look at CAN. Daily 50, daily 50, right there. And if you actually look at CAN, I talk about that elf shoe situation. Well, leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, right and through there. We're looking at this level, and we're going to see if we got some positive divergence. But again, just like Cannabis, we got to get the names on top of these moving averages. Like, enough of this pullback. We need to see them actually hold someplace and start to turn around. And I think that might also coincide with the IWM, since a lot of these names are going to be responsive to how the IWM actually moves. And then I think, let's see, Overstock. And then we'll look at MSTR. So Overstock, right in here, running into the hourly 200. So far, the hourly 50 has not been support. We're going to keep looking at this level, see if that does something, see if there's some divergence. And I'd like to see these things actually turn around and get back on top of the moving averages to get going again. On the daily chart, we've got basically a pattern within a pattern. And this is a lot of the stuff that I was talking about to the Moxie subscribers yesterday, is on the bigger picture, we have, leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, and then we're looking for that elf toe. But if you look within that, we have a pattern within a pattern. Here's your leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, again, looking for that elf toe. And again, to show you the pattern within a pattern, how about this? On the hourly chart, leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, there's your elf toe, and then leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball, elf toe. So pattern within pattern within pattern within pattern. It's kind of crazy, right? It's kind of like Inception when it comes to stock trading. Yeah, SOS, I heard that was part of the Reddit squeeze. Cool. Didn't have a setup for it. This thing just popped overnight. So just like CAN and Riot and Mara, buying on lows doesn't always work out, because otherwise they could keep melting down, which we're seeing with, say, Riot and something. There was no setup for this. It just popped overnight. As I said, maybe this was a Reddit thing that people kind of went after it, and then they're running this thing up. I always prefer to get in on pullbacks. I want to see price actually hold these moving averages. And so far, this is what I consider to be just the first move. This is the first move of where price gets over these moving averages. Now I want to see price kind of fade and come down to some support and test that support, just like what I saw on, just like what I'm looking for FFTY, for Redfin, for IWM, all that kind of stuff. I want to see price come back down, because what's the issue? This hourly 50, this 50 SMA right here that's moving down, it's in a downtrend, right? And price is trying to go up. So those are conflicting angles. They don't work. We need price to go with a moving average. And so we need the moving average to go up. That's what I'm looking for. So we need to wait for this movement in SOS to turn the hourly 50 up, and then we want to see price start to follow that moving average up. It's just like, when we talk about IWM, what was the issue? It's the same thing. Like, imagine this right here was SOS. We got price moving up, but where is the hourly 50? The hourly 50 is trending down. And so what am I saying? I'm saying the same thing for SOS that I was looking for IWM. I want to see price come back down to an uptrending moving average, and that is what we're getting right here. And this is why I'm like, do or die. We need to see price hold at this, because that's what works for me. I need to see price go up like this with the moving average. And so the fact that it's pulling back and hopefully testing it and going to use that for support, then that should help us, continue moving forward. And that's what I'm looking at. So we should know more, hopefully today, tomorrow, and the next day. All right, let's kind of see what you guys are looking at. Yeah, Saleh, CBAT was another one that was on my list. And this is why I'm not a morning trader, because otherwise you might get tricked out in something like this. How do you know that SOS was going to keep running, whereas CBAT just popped and flopped? That's always my issue when it comes to either day trading or just basically day trading or morning trading, because CBAT opened up here and it just went straight down. But if you look at SOS, SOS popped up, came down, and then turned back around. It did a U. That's not stuff I'm going to be doing. That's like on the 2-minute and the 5-minute stuff. It's not where I want to be. Now, that being said, if we kind of ignore this erroneous big move up on CBAT, call it a random tick or something, clearly there's volume. That's good. I like that there's volume. But I'm starting to see the same things that I want to be seeing on the cryptos, the same thing I would like to be seeing on Cannabis, and the same thing I want to be seeing on IWM and Redfin and all these other names is, here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, there's the ball of the foot. We're working on that elf toe. And what that looks like on the hourly chart is I want to start seeing price hold this hourly 50 and start moving up. So that's kind of where we're at. We're just hanging out, waiting for all this stuff to just do something, hold these moving averages, and start moving up. Now, maybe if we look at some other names like, Roku's having some good time, and you can see that what it's been doing is more or less been following the 15-minute 50 up. But, I'm having an issue with this one too, because I think at some point this is going to run into resistance up here, and it's still pretty far away from the hourly 50. So I'm concerned about that. I'm looking for a pullback, because usually these things don't just keep going up like this. There's going to be a pullback at some point. Trying to think of some other, let me know if you guys have other names that we're kind of looking at that are in this similar fashion. Let's see, because IDEX, I think, was another one that I'm looking at. And you can see same thing. We get this pop up like that, but then what it do? It's coming back down to the hourly 50. So the hourly 50 is my guide. That's what I'm looking for. And then something like, I think, FUTU. How about this? Doesn't that look like Roku? Right? Maybe you're getting a little bit of FOMO right here, thinking that, okay, this thing's going to go up. And yeah, there's absolutely a move. Look, it was on the 15-minute time frame. It followed the 15-minute 50 for FUTU. But then what it do? Eventually, it got too extended. It got too far away from the hourly 50 and needed to pull back. And what's it been doing over the last few days? It's been going sideways to down. And where's it going to? It's going to the hourly 50. So this is why I keep anchoring on this kind of stuff, looking at the hourly 50 for support, and then I want to see price actually hold that and start to move up. And at least on the daily chart, actually FUTU looks a lot like IWM. We see that the hourly price went up. We see that the hourly price went back down to the hourly 50, and we can see here that price is basically on the daily 50 with the 8 over the 21. Same thing for the IWM. That's what I'm looking at. We're just looking for pullbacks. I'm looking for this stuff to come into support. And if that works, then we should start making it back up. Yeah, so brighter side. Let's see. I'm wondering if that's Nick, since you were asking me about snow yesterday. Same kind of deal, a little bit sloppier, but same concept. Look at this. It's hourly 50, and it's having a little bit of trouble trying to get through the hourly 200. This is the process. That's so many names. All the ARK ETFs, they're all doing the same thing, and we just got to keep hanging on to it. Yeah, nice. Brighter side, Nick. Good to see you. Hey, Jack. Welcome to Facebook, or actually Periscope. I see you're on Periscope. Let's see. INVU. Yeah, nothing I can do here. These things are kind of crazy for that. The best I can say is, try and follow the 15-minute time frame. Otherwise, it went to the hourly 21. But boy, these things are crazy like this. It looks awfully extended to me. I would not be initiating a position here And personally, I like to cash in and take profits when it is way up there like that. So if you're in INVU, bravo, congratulations. I personally would be cashing in on some of this stuff. Yeah, nice guys. Let's see. Yeah, let's look at some of the 3D printers. Same thing, guys. Look at this. It's just they're all doing the same thing. They are trying to get this situation figured out. They're trying to use the hourly 50. Some of them are dipping below, and they're trying to figure out how they can start catching a bid here to go up through the hourly 200. And they're trying, if you actually look here, again, pattern within a pattern on the daily chart, leg, heel, arch of the foot. You know, now we're trying to work on that ball of the foot before we can get that elf toe. Pattern within a pattern. We're just seeing what we can do on this. I think all of the other ones, you know, basically looking the same. Some are looking better than others. Trying to figure out if there is a level here that price is going to hold as the Moxie indicator continues to go up. So far, it's just not holding the lower time frame, so there hasn't actually been a trade here yet. But look at this. Leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot. You know, maybe this is like the NASDAQ where we had a very extended ball of the foot and then it turned up. Or we could be looking at this and saying pattern within a pattern, leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, and then we'll see if we can get something moving up there. So this pullback that the IWM is doing is affecting a lot of names differently. And that's kind of what we have to do is keep looking around and seeing, well, which ones are holding up and which ones are doing well and which ones are going to get ready for when the market wants to shape up. So we'll take one last look at IWM, see if there's anything we can see. You know, as I said, do or die. We're right there. We need to start holding that moving average, you know, putting it at the bottom and start to move up. So we're going to have to see what that does. All right, guys. Well, that is my time. And just remember, if you want to learn a little bit more about me, go over here to profitpilot.com. And as I said, this last article is pretty cool, talking about the elf shoe that I've been talking about this whole session. It's all about elf shoes right now, double bottoms. And we saw it in the NASDAQ. I drew it ahead of time, what I was looking for. It went not, well, actually, that was the last one. Oh, we can go over here. It went not exactly what I wanted. There was a little bit of fake out, and then it tried going a little bit lower. But the same idea applies, and it's still there. And that's what I'm looking for, is I think that right now, we're kind of in this situation on a lot of names. Let me kind of see if I can draw that. Yeah, right here. You can see I think we're there on a lot of different names to where the 8 was staying underneath the 21 for a long time, and that this ball of the foot situation was extending for several days, a lot longer than expected. And I'm thinking we're seeing that on a lot of individual names too. So 1, we'll have to be patient. 2, we'll have to see if we need to cut losses on things. And 3, wait for price to get back on top of moving averages and re-engage with them before they can go up. So we're in a touchy spot. We're expecting the markets to pull back. We're trying to get the bottoms hammered out, and we're going to be trying to go up from there. Don't know if it's going to be this week. Maybe it's going to be next week. We're at the mercy of the market. But until then, guys, enjoy your Wednesday, and I'll see you next week. Take care.